Hi, I am Bharwani Karishma. I am registered PhD scholar of Bhakt Kavi Narsi Mehta University, Junagadh, and I am participant of PhD coursework organized by UGC Human Resource Development Center of Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. I am going to deliver my presentation on a study of profitability and liquidity measurement of food and beverages companies in India. Here is my research title. Now, let's get introduction of my study. Why I want to study on food and beverages industry. So here is some facts. The food and beverages industry is the fifth largest sector in manufacturing in India. Between April 2000 and June 2017, the Indian food processing sector received FDI worth $7.81 billion, making it the 13th largest sector receiving FDI in the country. In fact, 80% of the FDI in the food processing sector was received in the period since April 2012. India is rapidly becoming a production hub for processed foods which are increasingly consumed in India as well as exported to the countries in South India, in the Middle East India and Africa. So here is the introduction. Now, literature review which I took. There is a paper Bhabatosh Banerjee written in 1982 which title was Corporate Liquidity and Profitability in India and studied the relationship of liquidity and profitability by analyzing the trend of liquidity and medium and large public sectors limited companies in India covering the period 1971 to 78. Dr. Vimek Sharma 2011 has viewed that profitability and risk go hand in hand, that the firm earns good profit with moderate liquidity and higher risk, which 10 years data of Maruti Suzuki India Limited for a period of 2001 to 2010 has been studied. There is also a paper on liquidity profitability relationship, study of 10 leading FMCG companies in India. FMCG means fast moving consumer goods, which includes products of food and beverages. Then other FMCG products like we use daily to daily life like hair oil, Colgate, etc. So the paper examined the relationship between profitability and liquidity of 10 leading FMCG companies in India for the period of 2005-6 to 2014-15. Then Ramchandra and Rajudeepa studied on determinants of profitability of food industry in India, a size-wise analysis, and paper told that the size-wise analysis of the Indian food industry has brought to light some interesting facts of the industry. The overall results shows that there is a significant positive correlation between profitability and growth. Here is objectives of my study, which is I want to analyze the liquidity position of selected food and beverages companies in India, the profitability position of selected food and beverages companies in India, the liquidity versus profitability of selected food and beverages companies of India. I want to establish and analyze the correlation among different ratios of selected food and beverages companies in India and to suggest some measures to enhance the profitability of selected food and beverages companies in India. There is the hypothesis of my study which contains null and alternate hypothesis. My null hypotheses are there would be no significant difference in liquidity of selected food and beverages companies in India. There would be no significant difference in profitability and there would be no significant relationship between profitability versus liquidity of selected food and beverages companies in India. And alternate hypothesis as there would be significant difference in liquidity, profitability, and the relationship between profitability versus liquidity of selected food and beverages companies in India. Here is research methodology which I adopted for my study. My title of the study is a study of profitability and liquidity measurement of food and beverages companies in India. Sample size, I took 10 companies for analyze the liquidity and profitability position of companies, which is Nestle, PepsiCo, Hindustan Unilever, Heritage Foods Limited, Coca-Cola, Tasty Bites Eatables Limited, Tata Global Beverages Limited, Vadila, Britannia, and Dabur Foods Limited. The data selection, the sources of my data is secondary. The study was predominantly from secondary sources like annual and financial reports of companies, journals, articles, etc. Period of my study is 10 years, last 10 years of 2018 and 19. Tools and techniques which I adopted for my study. Here is tools, ratio analysis, trends, and mean. And the statistical techniques which I am going to apply for my studies: ANOVA, coefficients of variance, Spearman's rank correlation, and standard deviation. Significance of my study is as India is the world's second largest producer of food next to China and has the potential of being the biggest with the food and beverages industry. The total food and beverages production in India is likely to double in the next 10 years. And there is an opportunity for large investments in F&B industry. Although India is one of the world's major food producer, it accounts for less than 1.5% of international food trade. This may be due to lack of proper infrastructure facilities in India. This fact indicates a wider scope for development of food and beverages industries in India. Therefore, analyzing relationship between profitability and liquidity of food and beverages companies of India is significant. Future scope of my study. The future scope of my study is the study will be undertaken on food and beverages companies of India. Other comparative study across other industry can also be made. This study would be based on food and beverage industry related to commercial activity. A study and other aspects of this industry can be also made. In this study, comparative analysis will be made with certain tools and hypotheses. It can be changed for analysis to drive conclusion. The coverage of study will be confined to only 10 years, which can be increased in order to broaden up the scope of the present study. This study will help managers, directors, and other parties of food and beverage industry to take decisions related to increase in profitability. My chapter plan, which contains 7 chapters: overview of food and beverages industry of India, sample profile. Chapter 3 will be research methodology. Chapter 4 is profitability analysis of food and beverages companies in India. Chapter 5 will be liquidity analysis of food and beverages companies in India. Chapter 6 will be comparative analysis of profitability versus liquidity of food and beverages companies in India. And chapter 7 contains summary, findings, and conclusion. Limitations of my study is the study will be based on secondary data taken from published annual report and websites. The study has been restricted to a few categories of the food and beverages industry. That one also a limitation of my study. It may be personal review differ from others, and the study will limited to period of last 10 years. Bibliography, books, some journals, and books and some journals which I taken for my study as reference. Thank you for watching this presentation. I, Bharwani Karishma, want to thank UGC Human Resource Development Center of Gujarat University, Ahmedabad to give me opportunity of joining this coursework. Thank you.